My guests today are two guys that you've seen before on this show. If you've watched any of our previous episodes, Mike Spadier is the Chief Marketing Officer for Still Austin, and Madison Wickham is the CEO and founder of Texas Hill Country Provisions. Mike and Madison are two of the four original Campfire group members. We got together once a week for a campfire starting in the COVID lockdown era and extending years beyond then. Now, obviously, it's been 5+ years and our friendship has only grown. Mike and Madison are two of the more brilliant brand thinkers that I know, marketing, brand creation types. Really respect these guys quite a bit. And in this conversation, we talk a lot about this podcast and sort of the future of it and how it can be better. With all that said, I hope you'll enjoy this conversation with Mike Spadier and Madison Wickham. This feels a lot like I'm interviewing y'all for something, or like you're together.
It really does.
What would you say you do here?
Yeah, it's very interviewy.
You know that Tchotchkes, Tchotchkes in Office Space?
Yes, the restaurant.
So Tchotchkes, that scene was filmed at the old Alligator Grill, which no longer exists, but it is in that shopping center where Kirby Lane is on South Lamar.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Kirby Lane used to be a Blockbuster. Next to Blockbuster was Double Dave's Pizza. Next to Double Dave's was the old Alligator Grill. And that's where they filmed the Tchotchke scenes. And my childhood home was directly across the street from that. So that shopping center was like my skate park. And I would go skate there every day.
No kidding.
And one day I was just skating over there and there was a giant movie production.
Oh, you saw it being filmed?
I saw it being filmed and I yelled down to like 3 guys that were standing kind of in the middle. And I was like, what are y'all filming? And they go, oh, it's a movie called Office Space. And I was like, oh, cool. Who's directing it? I don't know why I asked that, but I did.
That's a good question.
and they go, this guy, and pointed to him. So that was Mike Judge.
No kidding.
Yeah. But I was just like, oh, cool. And then just like went on with my life. And then years later realized.
Austin's had some fun kind of obscure movies filmed at it before.
Yeah.
You don't even really realize it was filmed in Austin until you go watch it later and you see some, like Dazed and Confused was that way.
Oh yeah, dude.
That's all I knew about Austin growing up.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew that Dazed and Confused. So when I went to Hyde Park as a sophomore. Before that, I went to that little private school in Round Rock. And the baseball field my sophomore year was this old Little League field. And it was the Dazed and Confused field. But I never knew it until watching Dazed and Confused years later and seeing some of those scenes and recognizing, I think I've seen that field before.
Yep. Yeah, that was a monumental movie for me as
Dazed
a
and
kid.
Confused?
We watched it. Me and my buddy Elliot watched that movie probably 50 times the summer between 6th grade and 7th grade.
That was the playbook for how to be cool.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That was actually the first time I was like, ooh, weed's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Being a stoner was cool. Acting like an idiot was cool. All of it.
Later.
Huh.
Because we were at that age, I think I'm like 1 year older than you, maybe 2. That was I feel like I was 12 or 13 and the people in that movie were 17. So it was oh, that's what.
And it's so real. It's it's something too that as Henry and I have been watching all these old movies that I'm realizing that I talked to him about is these movies were made in an era where there was no options for content. So we all had 15 movies that we could cycle through. So the movies were made to be watched 1,000 times. Mm-hmm. And you can't even actually absorb everything watching it the first time because there's so many little subtleties throughout it that you have to watch it over and over and over again. And every time you watch it, it's you understand it more and you understand it more and you see the little,
As opposed to what would you recognize as different in movies that are made today?
Yeah, I don't know if I agree.
Are they just single service movies?
I think it's the same. It's just the circumstance is that you had to watch them.
Maybe it is. Maybe the movies are being made exactly the same with the same amount of depth, but I don't think that people are watching movies over and over and over again.
No.
Like you used to back in the day. So maybe that's true. Maybe the actual art form hasn't changed, but people aren't
you just didn't
digesting the art in as deep a way as you used to be forced to do it.
You're probably not going to have the classics from a generation like you had back in those days because there's just so much content.
I'm trying to think of some modern movies that would be worthy of a classic.
Tarantino's movies are all pretty classic.
He's kind of like
he's an exception.
I'd say he's an exception, but yeah, anything he makes,
anything Christopher Nolan, I would say same. You know, if you're going to watch Interstellar, might as well watch it 10 times.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Okay. Yeah. So
they're definitely out there.
It's more that there's just so much content. Yeah. It's a lot harder to like, you used to have to.
Not only that, you literally didn't have other options. Right. And then there was like a pipeline. So it would come out on movie and then you'd have to wait like a year and then it'd be on VHS. And then another year later, it'd be on like TNT. Right. And so you would just have that rotation of like seeing that movie a minimum of 3 or 4 times because those were the only things you did.
And nothing was on demand. So if it popped up on TNT, you'd be like, oh shit.
Gotta watch it.
Gotta sit and watch The Matrix.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's changed quite a bit. Will there be other classic movies that come out of this era that don't have some sort of specialty director where you'll just go see anything that person makes? Like underground type movies that were made on the cheap from some young enterprising director.
I think for sure. I just think it's all getting drowned out by volume, right? So there's crazy shit on YouTube that you'll never hear of unless you just happen to come across some sort of like niche recommendation. Like Henry showed me this series called The Back Rooms, and it's some kid made this whole series by himself in his house and used like some CGI application, Blender. And it's insanely awesome, so creative. And it has like a couple million views. And it got him a deal with A24. But like, yeah, it's now creative people are so empowered by all the fucking tools and stuff that are getting easier and easier and easier to use. Like we were talking about, like just fucking edit your own clips, right? I think the challenge is just going to be it's impossible to consume all the great stuff that's being created.
So are we in a boom era where a lot of the content creators that are doing it now will just not do it anymore? Where like you'll have some of the ones that rise to a level of fame that they can make money off of it and the rest of them will just go by the wayside?
No, I think it's more just there's going to be infinite niches.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's always a pocket of a couple thousand people that all think alike and will be obsessed with the thing you make, right?
Right.
Yeah. More fandom in smaller areas.
This is kind of a through line of the conversations that I've had with each of you independently. But the one thing that I did prepare for coming in here to talk to both of you, you both have that sort of marketing creative brain. And you're both running businesses and have started and sold businesses that operated primarily through like social media, marketing, advertising, and such. For what you do, would you want your kids to go into a business where they had to be tethered to a smartphone all the time?
You want to go first?
Sure. I do not think there is anything inherently wrong with a smartphone. I think it is one of the most powerful tools humans have ever created. And just like any powerful tool, you can use it for good or you could use it for not so good. And I think it's all about education. So we don't really restrict our kids' access to technology. We actually encourage it. I very heavily encourage all of the creative interests that my kids have. And I think that the technology is just simply tools that can be used to make things and to learn things.
How do you define creative interest in that? Like you said, you encourage any creative interest that they have. So where is the dividing line between what you would call creative and what you would see as just consumptive, if that's a word? just consuming the content?
So I don't think that there's anything inherently wrong with consuming content either. I think it's the quality of the content, right? So we have just always had the conversation of like from the time they could use an iPad and get on YouTube and start watching bullshit on YouTube. If we see them watching something that's like obnoxious or just, brain rot, we're like, hey, watch something else. Like that's garbage. That's not good for your brain. And there's all sorts of interesting stuff on there. So like not taking this like super authoritative approach of like, you can't watch that. You can only use that thing for an hour and you have to only watch PBS, right? It's like, it's more just like, hey, that's garbage. Don't watch that. It's just going to fill your brain with bad things. And then steer them in the direction of like, there's like one of the super popular YouTube series, forget the exact name, but it's like a how to draw channel. And it's just this dude who's an amazing illustrator or cartoonist. And he draws every popular character ever. So if you're a kid, you can get on that channel and be like Iron Man. And it's like these different videos of like how to draw different versions of Iron Man. And then so they're sitting there with the iPad, but also with a pen and paper, drawing, like learning strokes, learning perspective, learning, So it's just a tool. It's how you use it. And I think there's just it's similar to drugs. It's similar. It's like there's just a glaring lack of education and people are scared of things they don't understand. So if you don't understand what technology is, you're going to be scared of it. And if you only see the negative stuff,
Do y'all have any rules on how much they can be on a screen or where they can be on a screen?
We do.
We do not have any hard rules. It's just like
how old's your oldest boy?
14.
14.
Yeah. And it's we observe them. We observe their emotional and mental states, and we observe the activities they're doing. If all they're doing is sitting on an iPad, we're gonna be like, hey, put it up, go do something else. But that's the relationship that we've built is like, hey, put that up. And then they will like immediately do it because we've never been like, I just have this like fucking disdain for rules. I can't stand somebody else being like, you can't do this or you have to do this right now. It's like, dude, no, fuck you. Who are you? And I just don't think that it's necessary. Like, I don't know. It's like, it's more like in the moment rules. It's like, you don't do that right now because you've been doing too much of that. Go outside. So
you're just there to nudge.
Yeah. And then it also teaches them to be like self-sufficient, self-reliant and self-regulating. And also it's like every kid's different, right? So like, like some of them are better at regulating what they should and shouldn't be using technology for, and some are not as good or sneakier, whatever. But it's like, I don't know. I just think, I think you can just kind of, I think people are too uptight about things like technology.
I think for me as a 14-year-old, I'm the one that you would have had to have your eye on. Like if you gave me complete access to an iPad.
So I think that's where that's coming from, because I think Madison and I are more on the opposite side, where like, I think we've had this conversation a million times, and same conversation with like Josh Alley too, where we would probably attribute a huge amount of any kind of career success that we've had to the fact that we had sort of like untethered access to the internet at an early age. And, definitely should have been wrangled in a little bit. But I think the actual thing that we benefited from is curiosity. So being able to, back to the original question, like being able to leverage a tool that provides you the ability to scratch any itch that you want to scratch, right? And then to follow these pathways that lead to new pathways that then open up your mind to new things and put you on this path of like discovery, right? And then once you discover a thing and you learn a thing or, you know, develop a skill set or whatever, that to me has been probably the most tremendously beneficial thing in my life, to be able to just like the ability to learn that I can learn, right? And then that becomes contagious and infectious, and like you want to keep like seeing where that goes. So I think I agree with most of the way that he phrased that on like how to give kids access to that stuff, with that one caveat, which is like for the purposes of curiosity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So creativity, same deal. Like if you read something, see something, whatever, and then that stimulates you to then go on some sort of fact-finding journey or creative pursuit or whatever, to me, that's very, very beneficial. And so giving them the ability to do that with these tools like the phone and the laptop and iPad and everything else, I think is tremendously beneficial, right? But you can't just say like, do whatever you want.
Because I would limit their access to it in some way.
Yeah, I mean, I have some parental controls on the stuff and then check in on stuff every once in a while just to make sure they're not going down the same path that I did on certain things that were being a little too curious in the wrong places, for sure.
Yeah.
But like when I was little, my dad bought an IBM desktop computer and it was like, here you go. And my thing was like, I would try and break it, you know, and just try and click on things you weren't supposed to click on and change settings on things and discover settings that I didn't know existed until it got to a point where it wouldn't even turn back on. And then he was super cool with that, not like angry about it. Like he would call this like computer repair guy, and I would sit there and like watch him go through the whole thing and like ask questions and learn about the inner workings of everything. And like, you know, I built a computer from scratch when I was like 11.
It's so interesting because of our similarities now and the parallels to that experience. And like my dad was the one that encouraged technology, and he was always fascinated by it and kind of engineering minded. And we had computers in our house from a young age. And I can't remember how old I was when I like finally got my own computer, but pretty young, and with an internet connection. And a computer plus the internet today is a portal into everything, which all the bad stuff too, but like everything good. You can learn anything. And then you have all these applications, which are just tools that you can use to make things, to like dream something up and then create it and then show people. And that I think is the most important thing that anybody should figure out how to do. You know, it doesn't have to be digitally, but dreaming things up in your head and then using skills that you've developed to create a physical version of what you see in your head. So you can show other people and be like, they can be like, oh, I see what you see. Like, that's the coolest fucking thing ever.
Also, the actual creative aspect of like making things like that, but then also the other creative aspect of like creative problem solving.
Totally.
So the resourcefulness that you can learn with the tool, that you can teach yourself how to figure things out.
Yes. Because you have to. There's no other option.
Totally.
You have to figure it out yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's just you staring into everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is relevant because we just drove back from Florida yesterday, and we had a 11-hour drive that really we were on the road for like 16 hours. We had several stops. We stopped in New Orleans for a little bit, but the whole time, like my kids didn't say much. They were on the iPad the entire time.
Yeah.
And there is a process. What we notice with our kids is that there is a direct correlation between the amount of time they've spent on a screen that day and their attitude when they get off it. If they've spent a bunch of time on a screen, getting them to get away from it and go outside and do something becomes more and more of a chore, more and more of a fight. We get worse and worse attitudes
Sure.
the more time they're spending on it. And maybe that's an aberration. Like maybe we're just making that up in our heads.
I think everybody's just different. Y'all's family, I mean, is very clearly different. I live in a cul-de-sac. You live on 100 acres in Bastrop. I have a heavily digitally based business. You have a cattle farm.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a little bit different of an experience for your kids versus my kids.
Yeah. I think what we're here today to teach you, though, Tanner, is that there's value in both sides.
Yes. And I think this is actually a very poignant topic for what you're doing, because right now we are speaking into digital microphones to create a digital audio and video file that you're going to digitally distribute across the internet.
That you're relying on somebody else to figure out how to do.
And so, and here's the thing.
Okay.
These are
it's starting to feel like an intervention.
These are
even with the table set up this way. That's what that's the problem I had with
you have a vision for what this podcast is, right? And it's probably some level of fuzzy, some level of clear. And the beautiful thing about pursuing things like this is the idea is the idea is the idea. It's there. And then as you pursue it, it starts to become more and more clear as you get further down. Like the idea doesn't change, but your understanding of it gets deeper.
Yeah.
And it's no different than creating anything else. And in order to take this idea that's in your head and manifest it so that the world can see it, you have to use a certain set of tools to do that, right? You are the artist of this podcast. So the more of those tools you can use your own hands to wield, the more accurate the manifestation of the idea will be.
I do think that's probably true. However,
and if you're contracting out brushstrokes, then it's going to be a less accurate representation of what you see in your head.
So if it's something that I'm going to be having to do myself completely start to finish, unless there is an easy button via some kind of a software tool where I add the raw content into the robot and the robot spits out something that's like 80% of the way there where I really don't have to mess with it after that.
That is contracting the work out to a robot. Yeah. That also doesn't work, dude.
Allow me.
Okay, Sherpa.
Contracting out the brushstrokes is deep. It's deep. Here's the thing. I guarantee if I say like, what is your goal with this thing? You're going to say something very, very close to like a very altruistic thing, which is I want to have conversations with people that I respect and want to hear their opinions and to be able to archive that stuff. And, you know, I just love talking to people, which I believe. But I also believe that there's a part of that where you want your voice and your message and your show and these conversations to then go out into the world, and you want people to hear them. And you want to have a reaction from these conversations that you're having from people. Well, how much stock you put into that, how much of the altruism versus that, you know, just archiving your life versus like getting it out there, whatever that mix is, kind of is neither here nor there. The contracting out of the brushstrokes for like, how do you hook up this microphone? Where does that camera go? Whatever. Fine. Pretty good. The contracting out of like, how do I get this thing heard by people? I can fast forward to the end of that movie. Like I know exactly where that's headed.
Okay.
How you get it in front of people in a way that they're going to want to listen to it and consume it and hear it the way that you want them to hear it. Yes. But also like how the I guess we're talking about the same thing because really what I'm talking about is the clips, because the whole podcast strategy is you record a podcast. Very few people listen to the whole thing early on. And you get potentially a bunch of juicy video clips that you can put out on all of the social platforms. Nobody is ever going to just stumble upon a hour-plus podcast and listen to it.
There's really no such thing. So it doesn't exist.
So you have to build. It's like because there are 1 billion podcasts. Yeah. There are so many people making content on the internet that you have to explain to people why they should give a fuck about what you have to say. And it's kind of, and so that's what you do with the clips. So if you have a really good clip, if you make a really good point in an eloquent way and you can chop it up just so and put it out there, then it has a chance of being seen by a whole lot of people. And if you can do that over and over and over and over and over and over, eventually people are like, I know that guy and I kind of know what he thinks. And I kind of like I've seen a few things and I like his opinion. Oh, he has a podcast. I'm going to listen to the podcast. It's like, that's how it works.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to do that, you shouldn't make a podcast. You should just record things on a tape recorder and store them in a file cabinet.
Does that always have to be something I'm doing myself?
Well, if you're not doing it yourself, it's like, what?
If you're not doing it yourself, each one of those steps that he just mentioned has infinite lessons to be learned in each one of those steps. And then each one of those infinite lessons you learn gets fed back into the machine for your next thing, which makes your next thing sharper and sharper and sharper. And when you watch, like if you sat in front of an editing panel and watched this back, and the instructions were find a clip to share it on social, find a good clip is what he said. You don't even know what a good clip is yet because you haven't posted what you thought was a good clip to see if that's even a good clip compared to what you thought it was.
So your metric for whether or not it was a good clip is how many people clicked on it.
Not necessarily. No. What's your goal?
You won't even know. Clicks are one metric, but there's a bunch of metrics, and you don't necessarily have to be. You don't even
the process of posting it. Like, what is okay? You made your clip. You've determined a 15-second. Why 15 seconds? Is it vertical? Is it horizontal? Is it going to be on Instagram? Is it going to be on YouTube? Is it going to be on LinkedIn? What's the caption going to say? All of those decisions lead into whether or not it's going to be seen, whether or not it's going to be received, whether or not it's going to be shared, whether or not someone's going to discover your podcast. So as you're making those decisions, you're having this mental war with yourself and having to ask yourself these questions to go, is that good?
I've changed my mind. I think there is a scenario. There is a scenario that would work if you found the perfect person who saw your vision, because you should be spending your time building the cattle farm, and then you should be able to, and then you should also spend your time writing out your thoughts, writing out your experience cattle farming, and get really good at kind of telling the story about what you're doing, and then also get really good at interviewing people and all of that. And I guess you don't necessarily have to, you don't have to do all of those pieces, but you can't contract them out to somebody who is going to treat it as a to-do item on their to-do list, so they can get a freelance check from you. So it would have to be almost like a co-founder who's like really gives a fuck about what you're doing, so that they could really, so that they would be able to identify like, oh, this is the perfect clip. And so if you found almost, I'm going to go land this plane. If it was me when I was 25 and I was like, I wanted to like, I could have partnered up with you and gotten like obsessed with everything you were doing and done all the behind the scenes stuff to like, but you need that would be like a crucial component if you're not going to do it yourself. But then there also is, I 100% agree with Mike that there is a whole lot of value in learning these things yourself, even if you do it for a short period of time, because it's really hard to delegate things that you don't understand.
So I still would say like doing it yourself from start to finish, even if it's for a finite amount of time, for the purposes of being able to become a practitioner, to then explain to someone else what it is, right? Because if you're saying to somebody else, I don't know, put this online and let's get views, like there's a disconnect there, right? So you have three options. You have one option one, which is do it yourself, even if it's for a finite amount of time, to sort of like understand the way things work. Option two, find a partner, right? So someone who brings something to the table that you don't bring, that you bring something to the table that they don't bring. So somebody who can't be on camera, can't talk, doesn't have anything interesting to say, but is like super obsessed with the tech and the platform and social. Okay, cool. Partnership.
And what you are the specifics of the content that you're making.
Sure.
People that are interested in you and your content.
In that sense, that could work. And then option 3 is just pay someone to do it, right? Like you hired my agency to do marketing because you don't have that, department or want to even have that department. Yeah. So you're either going to have to pay for it, do it yourself, or find somebody to cut in.
The piece of this that I haven't figured out where it applies yet is that everything that I've done personally and professionally that I've been successful at has had a common thread to it that I can't figure out where it applies here. So if I'm looking at this as like I'm doing this professionally, I want to record 2 or 3 of these a week. I want it to be people I'm interested in. I want to be able to go back and listen to the conversation again anyways to see where are my little ticks and things that I'm doing that's not effective. Where am I not engaging with this person well, or what pieces of this did I get lost in la la land and have to re-engage and re-listen to what they were saying? So there's value to me going back and listening to some of it anyways. So if I'm going to go back and re-listen to it anyways,
halfway there.
I'm halfway there.
Listen to it in a video editor. Here's the thing too.
A piece of this, don't lose your thought.
Sure.
Don't lose your thought. The piece of this that I haven't figured out where the correlation is that if you go back to me in college. So I played baseball all through high school and all through college. In college, I only pitched. I probably have told y'all this before, but my freshman year of college, I get there and I'm too dumb to know any better. So I just go and play. And I played a lot. And I played well as a freshman because I played a lot. My sophomore year, I started taking it really seriously.
You got the yips.
Getting very particular about my form and how I stand on the rubber and where I put my glove here and how I get every little bit of it. I tried to get really serious about, and my game completely fell apart.
Yeah.
It was like the moment I started to really look at it carefully and try to get really fine with the things I was doing.
Did you work through that and get the game back?
Yes, but it took me going back to just playing the game before I could actually play it well.
But see, that's a great lesson within the lesson there.
Okay.
Because I've experienced that a million times. Like when my handful of videos that I've made, I obsessed over stuff that people were like, what is wrong with you? Like stupid amounts of time on like color correction, right? And obsessed over that. And then when you get through that part and nobody's outside opinion can shift you from that thing. You have to shift yourself. You have to go through that fire and then come out the other side and be like, yeah, that was dumb. Right. You have to learn that lesson of why am I focused so much on this stuff? I should just be throwing the ball. And then all of a sudden you're better for it.
Right.
So these are like the infinite lessons to be learned along the way.
I think the lesson I took from it as it applied to baseball was you put all the time in to be really particular about having better mechanics, having better form, placing the ball better around the plate. But then the time you get out and you get in the game, you have to be able to shift your mindset back to just playing the game. So applying that to being a CEO of a business, where I'm not as good of a performer at the things that I do well, is when I'm paying really close attention to the balance sheet and the P&L this month and which customers are profitable and which ones are kind of habitually unprofitable and which ones we're billing and which ones are in collections. And the moment I'm focused on those things, I cease to play the game. The job is not fun. And after 11 years of doing it, you burn out.
That parallel is perfect. Yeah.
It's perfect, but you went through that, right? Realized that, hired people to take care of those things.
Yeah.
But you have some sort of a language that you can speak to those people to say, like, this is the thing that I know that I'm not that great at, and I need somebody to take this part over. But you were in those trenches.
Kind of have to do it first.
You don't have to. I'm just saying, like, there is a lot to be gained from that.
Yeah.
I think you will enjoy cutting the clips. That's part of the art form. Like,
it's not torture.
What you're trying to do, you have ideas in your head, or you're trying to extract ideas out of other people's heads. That's like all that's happening here. And that is art.
Yeah.
And it's communication is what's really going on here. You're trying to communicate these ideas, or you're trying to help other people communicate their ideas. And so you're going to have a better idea. Like when you sit down with that raw footage, you're going to have such a better radar for like, oh, this is the point that I want to send out into the world.
Yeah.
And with all these words that are being said to communicate this point, I want to chop it up just so that it's like fucking saying exactly what I want people to hear.
And
that's like that. So it's like, that's the fucking art.
Mm-hmm.
And then because you're so in the weeds with every second of the words, by osmosis alone, you're going to be a better interviewer.
Yes.
You're going to be better on the fly, better off the cuff. You'll recognize subconsciously when a conversation's going towards a certain direction. And without even thinking about it, you can steer it towards the way you want it to go.
So then the equivalent would be by doing the clip work. See, the thing that would worry me is I get in here and I say something and then I come out of the moment and realize like, oh, I didn't say that well. Let me make sure I say this well so that I can clip it better.
But that's
later.
good.
That's good.
That's thinking about process. Your mechanics while you're on the mound.
And then the next time, then you'll know how to work through that.
But it's like the I don't think the answer is like bury your head in the sand to those like that's a reality is like you have to balance that like you're trying to do something here, right? There's a point to this. It's not just I'm Tanner and I like to talk to people. Like because if it is like then do whatever the fuck you want, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But if you're actually trying to accomplish what I would think you're trying to accomplish by recording a podcast and putting it out to the world, which is hopefully these are messages that resonate with people in a positive way and lead to, you know, ideas, inspiration, whatever, right? I don't know what but
I think you've been affected in a very meaningful way by other podcasts.
Yes.
Right. And so I think that's an inspiration point to go, man, if I could be able to do something like that, and not just because you're envious of a podcaster, but because you want to like altruistically share the experience you had, if you could give that to someone else, that would make you feel great.
Altruism is probably not the right word for it.
Giving back.
There's some of that. I mean, it's you and I've had this conversation before, so it's a little bit of a repeat. I don't know that you and I have, but I've had proximity to some podcasters before, people that have a podcast, that when you see them in podcast mode and you see them in real life mode, it's very obvious they're not the same person.
Yep.
And when you see that incongruity, you recognize it and it just looks fraudulent to me. And so
the opposite is the best thing ever.
Well, the problem that somebody like me has with that is that the moment you see that, oh, this person's successful, like they have a well followed show. Look at all these followers they have. But then you see them in their real life and they're kind of an asshole to you. Yeah. And like you're there to help them with something, but they're sort of like, just go fix my shit and get out of my house. Like for a long time, I would have had an aversion to doing something like this because if that's what it takes to be successful, I'm not interested in it.
I don't think it does.
No, it definitely does not. It actually,
I don't think it does either. As evidenced by me being here.
Yeah, the opposite.
But that's to me, the reason to do it is that I feel like I've cultivated a group of people around me in the time post college in my sort of professional and personal life that when I talk to them, I get something really meaningful out of those conversations for sure. I'm a better person as a result of you two being in my life and people like Chris and people like Josh Alley and, you know, Susanna and like all these people that I've had in here and talked to. And it feels less like I want to be heard in these conversations. That's not the thing to me to seek. A following is not, to me, what I'll look at is whether or not this is successful is how many people listen to it or watch it on YouTube. I'm paying almost no attention to that. To me, what's successful about it would be if I'm having conversations that I'm getting something out of, and I know that I'm doing it in a genuine way where very shortly into these conversations, I'm forgetting that all this shit's around us and we're just having coffee. And if I go back and I re-listen to it, I'm getting something out of it. So other people like me very likely would. And my way to combat the fraudulence that exists in this space is to say, well, if people like me aren't going to be willing to do it, well, then it's all going to be fraudulent people and it's going to have no long-term value to it.
Yes.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's...
Can I clip that, Madison?
You
clip
can
it.
That.
Will that make a
Mark it, clip it.
I think you could put me and Madison in rooms by ourselves and ask us what we think Tanner Vaughn wants out of this experience. We would have said the same thing.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the thing that we love about this too, is like, I always say like, oh, Tanner's like one of the best listeners I know. He's one of the best communicators I know. It's wonderful to talk to Tanner. So like all of that checks, the box. Like, yeah, you should.
Also, you're the glue guy.
You're the glue guy. You glue it all together.
So your network is deep and wide.
Right. So that's why this conversation is like, okay, it's almost a shame if you're doing all this and we all believe that you have this thing that everyone is attracted to, but you're not willing to do the other part, which is get it heard. And that's not rare, by the way.
Yes, that's
very common.
Super.
Is that why the word starving artist exists?
Of course.
Super. Yeah. It is dude. When's the last time you read The War of Art?
Yeah, it's been a while. I need to reread
It's about time.
Yeah.
This is all like a lot of these ideas in your head are resistance.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm the son of an artist who is very much wired that way. Of like, I don't want to do all the shit to self-promote.
You don't say.
Paint.
So think about it this way. What you said is you regularly have these conversations with all of these different people, and through these conversations, you extract bits of wisdom that have improved your life or improved your day or whatever, right? Or give you perspective on.
And you're certain that other people will have that reaction.
And so that's why you want to have these conversations. That's why you want to record them. And that's why you want to put them out into the world so that people can come across them and extract those same little nuggets of wisdom. It's almost your if you truly believe that, it's almost your obligation to do everything in your power to get these conversations in front of the most people, because otherwise you're robbing people of these little nuggets of wisdom.
That's the thesis of Show Your Work. Have you read that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That entire book is like, this isn't something that you should feel guilty about for doing or weird about or whatever it is. You're obligated. If you have something good, you're obligated to put it out there.
And it's an absolute indisputable fact that you personally get positive things out of these conversations.
Yes.
Okay. So that means it's absolutely certain that there are a lot of other people out in the world who would also get that same value. And if you're not trying to learn everything you can to help get that information to them, then you're kind of hoarding it for yourself.
I'm painting the paintings and sticking them in my closet.
Exactly.
And I would feel self-conscious about like putting this on you if I didn't believe it 100%. And if I didn't prove it with Novak. Like Novak and I, this is a 1 year conversation of this exact.
This is a conundrum as old as time.
Yeah.
So where are the easy buttons? Like if I'm a Pareto principle guy and I want to do 20% of the work and get 80% of the result and not worry about the additional 20%.
Pay somebody to do all the non-creative stuff and then you do the creative stuff yourself.
Okay.
And part of that creative work is going to involve some slight learning curves, but we now have infinite wisdom through ChatGPT to be your companion to help you through any of the toughest problems that you might run into.
See, now you're just stacking fences in front of fences.
Yeah.
Just pretend that you're slacking with Josh Alley, but it's actually ChatGPT.
But can I just slack with Josh Alley instead?
You could do that too if you need the human touch.
You're not going to get a response.
I occasionally get a response.
Yeah.
Josh is pretty good about responding.
I feel like I've cultivated enough of a network of people that know how to do this stuff that I can.
Yeah, but no one's available 24/7 and with the entirety of human knowledge.
No, I'm not saying to do it for me. I'm saying to give me the.
Yeah, but just use ChatGPT.
Well, it's just so Mike and I can give you a rundown on like, this is how you use the equipment. This is how you like transfer the video files to your computer and put them in the editor and clip them up and export them.
Mm-hmm.
Crash course in that, easy. Afterwards, though, you're not going to 100% remember everything we tell you. So afterwards, it's like you're going through and you're stuck and you're like, hey, ChatGPT, I'm doing this and this is where I'm stuck. What do I do? And then it's like, do this.
But
and
you
then
Google stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
thing.
Yeah, it's
just a better Google,
significantly better version of a tool than Google for that particular use case. It'll tell you exactly what to do
in the language that makes sense to you.
Yeah. No scrolling for links and articles and tutorial videos and shit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
again, it's just a tool. There's nothing to be scared of.
Scared of it's not the term. It's not like
you have you're a vampire and it's garlic or something, or like it's like, you're fucking, it's creeped out or something. There's something that's like, it's such a resistance.
Yeah. Well, where it starts is paying attention to my own demeanor. This kind of goes back to what we talked about with our kids. There's a very direct correlation between how much time I'm spending looking at a screen and my mood and well-being at the end of the day.
I respect that. What's on the screen.
Yeah.
If you're like,
I bet if you spend all day on a screen looking at tractor equipment and shit that you're into, that gets you excited. Like when you were looking at those old Dodge Rams, you were stoked.
But even that is a little shallow compared to like what I'm talking about is like, this is the final it's the final piece of what you're doing here is like, you made the long fucking raw, unedited conversation. Now what you said is the whole point of the conversation is to extract little nuggets of wisdom that then improve your life.
Mm-hmm.
So the final step is extracting the fucking nuggets of wisdom and then sending them out there so they can improve other people's lives.
So if I'm going back and listening to it anyways, and I hear something that
no one's going to pick the clip that you clip.
Yeah.
And nobody is going to edit the clip the way you would edit the clip because that's the fucking art.
Yeah. But even if you had the partner or the contractor and you said to that person, okay, at 3 minutes and 14 seconds, I start talking about whatever. And then at 5 minutes and 10 seconds, that's where I want to stop it. Then I want the camera to go from me to Madison right when he says this. And I want to put some words on the top of it that really emphasizes you're doing it.
Mm.
You see what I mean? Like have the other person drive with the mouse and the keyboard if you really want them to,
mm-hmm.
but you've done 99% of the work.
Yes. It's not part. Toss it over the fence and send it back to me. That's outsourcing the creative, which no one's going to be able to do it. No one's going to be able to do it good enough to complete like your.
My uncle used to say, nobody will wash your car better than you can.
All of what you're saying makes sense.
They're just digital tractors, dude.
Yeah.
It's not if I'm sitting in my house all day and I'm looking at tractors and I'm watching videos of guys that are moving cows around.
Yeah.
At the end of that day, I go, man, I could have just done that. Like I could have just walked out of my pasture.
Because that is surface level fucking that's different. That's nuts. That's passively.
What if you were watching those videos to go learn how to do it and then you went out there and did it?
That's what I do all day.
And then you go do it.
But even that, we're talking about different things here because this is making something.
Yeah.
Like you're making the whole point of this is to extract nuggets of wisdom. And this is literally extracting the nuggets of wisdom and then putting them in a form that could potentially reach millions of people.
I think I can wrap my head around how it correlates with the baseball analogy. Because with the baseball analogy, it's better when you get to a point that you're trying to do things at a high level, you have to do the work. You have to do the hard work. You can't just go play. Like people are too good.
Totally.
And they're putting too much work into it for you to just go out and throw every day. Unless you're a world-class talent, which I wasn't.
Sure.
So the work outside of the game had to happen.
Yeah.
But what I failed to do as a sophomore and part of my junior year is to go back to the mound and just play, knowing that the work that I had put in was going to make me a better player in doing it.
Yeah.
Like the equivalent would be stepping into this room and hitting record is like being on the pitcher's mound in a game and having to just go back to playing the game.
Yeah. So you're a little concerned about absorbing the podcasts at too deep a level and getting in your head and fucking with like now you're trying
losing the
now you're trying to like find clips in the moment.
Yeah, I'm concerned about looking at the unicorn in the eyes and the unicorn disappears.
I just think that like let's say like despite you not doing the clip stuff and like it still gets really big. Like you're not going to. At some point, it gets in your head. So you might be dealing with some repressed trauma from the baseball years that are getting triggered here. And instead of doing the work to resolve the underlying trauma, which would be to like do the work.
Tanner never got the computer.
Then
And now he's
I did.
so it's going to like
trouble for using it.
It's that uncomfortableness is going to come out at some point.
Yeah. This is something that I'm actively trying to wrap my head around, at least what it is, so that I can work on it.
Yeah.
Because I know it exists.
Well,
and I know that I've read War of Art enough to know that it is resistance in there somewhere.
And leaning into it is what is like how you lean into the resistance.
okay. So
It's the stuff you're supposed to push through.
So the baseball analogy made sense, right? So let's use the farm analogy. You have an idea that you want to build this farm on your property and do all these things, and you were just showing me the tools for the cattle, like how to water them and do all that stuff.
Yeah.
So if you had this idea for, is it regenerative, like farming?
Yeah, rotational grazing and regenerative.
So if you had this idea for that months ago, and you said, I'm going to go all in on this. First thing I do is hire people who know how to build a farm. Or did you do it yourself?
No, that's something you have to do yourself.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then eventually,
shut up.
You get to the point where now you're like, you know how this entire thing works, right? Because you built it from scratch.
Yeah.
So now you hire the guy off the street that goes like, oh, you know how to work with cows? Cool. I'll teach you the rest.
Yeah.
Here's what we're trying to achieve. I need to get
the
this
pieces
much
of this that I know I'm not getting juice from, then outsource those pieces.
Yeah, but you've already done the work to even have that conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Like what do you say to the guy in the first conversation if you've never made a farm before?
Okay, so tell me where this analogy plays out then, because the building of the farm operation, like part of this whole regenerative principle in rotating cows is you have to have fresh water at several points through pastures so that as you're moving them around, you can section off a little section and put a trough there.
And you learned that.
Well, what I'm asking is the piece of this that I don't know where it correlates.
Mhm.
Maybe you can shed light on it. Once I've put in the permanent infrastructure, once I've laid the water lines in the ground and put the water point there and put the cap on top of it, that piece of it's done and never has to be done again.
Mhm.
Is there a piece of that I'm building in the process of like making my own clips and
1,000 pieces, man. Like you could set up a timeline on your editing software that has a template ready to go, that you push one button, it imports your footage. You push another button and it adds the captions to it. You push another button and it spits it out for the YouTube, like directly to YouTube. Like all of these things have process and they all have an automation approach, a templated approach to where it's like, now that that's done, it's done.
those are the water lines?
Yeah, totally. You asked me to do a remix, like intro song or whatever. Once that's done, you don't have to do your intro song ever again.
Yeah, and then think about it as like what it's content creation and content distribution. And all of the social platforms are your distribution channels. And so once you establish the presence on the distribution channels, those are like your water troughs. And I don't know, it's an exact analogy, but
the analogy there being you've laid the water pipes in the ground.
You got the piping. You got the piping to deliver the content to the people. Yeah. And so if you build up all those channels, then you've got them.
Yeah. The piece of it that's different is that the cattle grazing, I'm really actively interested in, and the setting up of social channel easy buttons where now the process is in place and the pipes are in the ground and I can just push the button and it's done.
Yeah.
So then I would challenge you to contemplate the question of,
am I interested in this?
Should you be doing a podcast if you're not interested in doing a podcast?
Yeah,
that's a loaded question.
That's like I started a band, but I'm not interested in playing in front of people.
I'm going to hire out I'm going to contract out the musicians.
No, I don't want anyone. That's true.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going to start a band, but I don't want anyone to come see us play. Right? Like that's fine. That's what I started the whole conversation with is like, look, I get a ton of joy out of jamming with my friends.
Yeah.
If that's enough, cool.
But we could just go to fucking radio.
Yeah.
And have this exact same conversation.
We could, and we would
but actually we'd be talking about something you care about.
Fair enough. Knowing me the way that you know me, if I'm going to block 3 months of my life to take all of my time back from my professional endeavors with Live Oak and focus it elsewhere, how would you tell me to approach that project, taking a sabbatical?
I would say you should spend most of your time raising these cattle and learning everything you fucking possibly can about that. That is like so clearly a thing that you are supposed to do. And then I would say you should do this podcast from your ranch, and you should at least give it a try doing all the things, because it's fucking fun, dude. It's like, it's so empowering to learn how to like I bought a fancy camera. Mike, without knowing anything about it, Mike gave me a crash course, and I've fumbled my way through learning how to use it to now I can use it for photos. I can use it for videos. I know all the settings. I can.
And no one would be able to look at the work that you do and say, like, that guy doesn't know what he's doing. It looks 100% professional.
It's so empowering. Prior to learning how to do that, I had to rely on Mike or somebody else that I would have to hire to do that work for me. And it's just a tool that then allows me to like take the picture or shoot the video and edit the video exactly as I imagine it in my head. So I think you'll actually enjoy it once you get over the initial, like once you demystify it. It's just a matter of like demystifying it. And then I think that is actually a really good like growth opportunity that might resolve some fears that are still inside of you from the baseball yips.
Yeah, I'm also 100% confident that you will get joy out of that, because you're the type of person that gets the joy out of doing the thing. Like you're getting joy out of building the farm. Mm-hmm. I got a tremendous amount of joy yesterday from cutting a 10-inch square out of drywall and blocking up a 2x4 behind it and then remounting my garage door frame, because that process I didn't know before, and I learned it and I did it and I go, look at that. I made everyone go in the garage, push the button and be like, see that? See that? See that? Like that joy is the same joy. And
the reason why I would recommend that combo is because I genuinely do think that you're good at this. I think that you have an honest, unique worldview that the more people out there who have honest, unique worldviews that have good intentions and want good things for people should be getting their voice and their ideas out there. And you're doing something really fucking cool and interesting that I literally have never met another regenerative cattle farmer in my entire life. That's awesome. And you're like doing it, but you're also learning about it as you're doing it, so you can teach other people as you learn, which reinforces the learnings for you. It's just like you can just make the shit. Like think of it as like you're making this stuff to share with people, and then you can put it out and you can get the fuck outside, right? Like you don't have to then look at you don't even have to look at stats. Just learn how to make the stuff and put it out there. And if you're happy with it, then that's all that fucking matters. And yeah, I had this conversation with him when he was learning cameras, and I had a very similar conversation with Novak when he was learning all of his stuff.
Novak's stuff is great.
Yeah, he's fucking
fantastic. It's really, really good.
Okay, so
because he makes you interested in stuff that I'm not interested in 100%. At all.
So that's the perfect transition for what I'm about to say, which is you and Novak all have the hard part already figured out. The hard part is, in your case, it's being able to have interesting conversations. It's being able to make relationships and connections with people that want to have these conversations with you. It's being able to extract like a good conversation from somebody, being a good listener. That's all very difficult to teach somebody. Novak has all of the musical talent in the world. He's a really natural, like engaging communicator when you watch him, right? That is very difficult to teach somebody. You have a good eye for design. You have a great eye for business. You have a great eye for creativity in general and like understanding cultural trends. Learning how to use a camera, fucking simple. Learning how to push the button on YouTube in relation to what we're talking about, anyone, I don't care who you are, anyone can learn those skills. The things that I just mentioned from all three of you guys, that is not something that is easy to learn and sometimes impossible for certain people. So if you shift the frame like that and be like, oh, I just need to learn how to till the ground and then I can be a farmer, I can learn that, you know?
Yeah. Part of the regenerative principle is that you don't till.
That's what I said. Don't till the ground.
Where does that fall into your analogy?
I'm not a fucking farmer, Tanner. I'm a digital marketer. That's what I'm over here.
I had the exact same struggle, and Mike has actually been a source of marketing knowledge and wisdom for me since back at my first company when he first started Heart of the Sun, he came to our office and whiteboarded the marketing funnel. And it was the first time anybody had ever explained that to me. And I was like, this is fucking genius. This makes total sense. But like then our relationship since then has basically been like, it's basically been like a big aspect of our friendship is Mike teaching me things about marketing. Really. I mean, and even from like 5 years ago, starting Texas Hill Country Provisions, very early on, it was like, Mike, do you want to partner with me on this? And we did an equity deal just purely so that I could have some fucking guidance on. I like making stuff, but telling people to like, hey, come consume the thing that I make, come buy the thing that I make. Like that's, I do that begrudgingly.
Yeah.
And I'm actually just kind of in real time realizing like, oh fuck yeah, I'm the exact same way. But because it's easy to see it. But the thing is I've overcome it since then. Like over the last 5 years, like this was my journey of overcoming that resistance to actually put the things I make out there in a vulnerable way where it's like, to the point now where I'm actually like fucking putting my face and voice out there. Right. Yeah. So, I'm completely kind of, this has been my healing journey. And I think that you're kind of you have a similar opportunity to where you can like overcome these mental hurdles. It's just a mental hurdle because what you have to say is great and useful and valuable. And what your guests have to say is great and useful and valuable. And that's all that fucking matters. Fuck everything else. And then figure out how to put that stuff out there in the absolute best presentation possible. Mm-hmm. And only you can figure that out.
There's a piece of it too that if you're committed to it fully and it fails, then you're the failure. Whereas if you didn't commit to it fully and somebody else was doing this piece and it was expensive to do. And
that's why it
didn't work out.
That's why I've hidden behind brands my entire career. For 15 years, I've made brands and been like doing all the creative stuff behind the scenes. But like, if it fails, it's like, it's not me.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I mean, I'm getting more comfortable with it now, but doing stuff like this is like, I've always had a huge resistance to do it. We've talked about that for years. Right. But
it was fully negative. It was like, why would you do that? That's a terrible thing to do.
And dude, and it's the same fucking shit too, because you see the disingenuous people. Yeah. You see the people that are really good actors, really good at pretending that they're genuine and authentic.
And your inner monologue for when you're watching the inauthentic stuff and you're like, I don't want to sound like that.
I have a theory. I have a theory that all the inauthentic stuff is about to go to zero. It's about to go to zero people giving a fuck about it. Because I think AI is hyper tuning our radar for what's real and what's fake. And you can't get away with the same amount of fakeness. Like you used to be able to manufacture authenticity.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can do that anymore.
What's that called? There's a term for that, right? The brain's ability to see what's real and what's not.
Like the turning.
It's like
Turing test.
No, Turing test is part of it.
That's for machines. Yeah.
It's like the what is it called?
Just uncanny valley. Uncanny valley. Yeah. The uncanny valley is like shrinking to the point where you can fucking spot like that's not real. And it's like that person doesn't fucking actually mean what they're saying.
So your theory is that AI getting better and better exponentially quick is just honing our ability to see what's real and what's not.
It's funny because
it's AI, it's technology in general. It's podcasts are so authentic, right? Because it's just people talking. Yeah. So like before this, it was like buttoned up news anchors, right? How disingenuous is that?
Yeah.
So now there's a bunch of podcasts out there of people pretending to be authentic.
Yeah.
And that used to work. But now I think it's getting to a point where it's like, you got to just be your fucking self.
Yeah. Warts and all is what they say.
Warts and all.
Okay, so that's interesting. I haven't thought of that before. But like, I have a photo on my phone right now that's like my giant like oh shit moment for AI, like that last GPT image update that they did. I doodled
that was nuts.
Yeah, I showed you guys that.
You sent it.
I doodled that little image on my iPad and then put it into GPT, and within like 2 sentences made it a photo. And like as a photographer, if you showed me that photo, it would take me, I don't know, minutes to really examine it and be like, I think that's AI. Like, I don't know for sure, but I think that's AI. So that's how close we are with like inauthentic things that are really, really authentic looking. So it's interesting because I think that's only going to get worse. Like, we're only going to see images from here on out that's like, I don't even know if that's real. But I think, I haven't thought of this before, but like the human side of that, you're going to, the output of that, the byproduct of that is you might get really sharp on identifying fake human shit.
Well, because everybody recognizes the truth. Yeah. Everybody recognizes real things and real stuff. It's still messy, but I think it's going to get to a point where like real stuff just sticks out like a sore thumb, and everybody just glazes over at all the other shit.
Yeah.
Even if the algorithms are probably going to get really good at understanding, like because the algorithms just respond to what the people want. So if the people want brain rot, it's going to serve up a lot of brain rot. Yeah. But I have an optimistic view of the future. And I think
we disagree on that part, but I understand where you're coming from. We had this conversation.
What part do you disagree about? Optimism on the future?
No, with the part that like the cream is going to rise to the top and all of this other shit is going to fall to zero, like you said. Like, I actually think in the same conversation we were talking about earlier, where things get more and more niche, right? And so you don't necessarily have to have like, primetime NBC audience in 1989 to, make money. You can actually like have 1,000 followers and be really, really successful. Like, you can have 500 followers that are super in tune with like regenerative farming practices, and you sell whatever it is you're selling, whether it's a course, a digital product, or like a device that you've built for these people. Let's say your device costs $1,000 and they have to buy one every year. Like, you're great. You know what I mean? With that little tiny audience. So I think that is going to continue. And I think like shit content, because the algorithm pushes whatever is getting responses, shit content is going to have an audience.
Sure. And I think there's always an audience there's always a customer base for McDonald's.
Right. But I'm saying like in the way that it's getting more fractioned into like these smaller and smaller audiences, I don't think that like the shit content is going to go away because more people want better content. I think it's just going to be like, now there's 10 people really into this and 10 people really into this and 10 people, and it's all shit. And then there's 10 people over here that are looking into really good stuff. And then 10 people over here. So it's like, it goes from that NBC audience of like everyone in the country is watching Cheers tonight.
I see what you're saying. It's like so fractionalized it's basically the content is specifically tailored to
It's just your content. Yeah. It's like, it's the Tanner Vaughn all day, every day channel that only the shit that you want. And AI and the algorithms don't give a fuck if it's good or bad. It's just whether or not it's for you.
Well, yes, but I guess my hope or view of it, or like my optimism comes from like, I think that humans are largely the same, and that we have a lot of the same desires. And I think we're going through this like transitionary period where the internet created a lot of like manufactured garbage, but just like there's kind of like an awakening when it comes to nutrition and what to eat and what not to eat. And people are at least in as far as I can gather, are eating cleaner than ever before, just because of the massive amounts of information about it, and places like Whole Foods flourishing, and I think
you're making my point.
I think that it's going to.
You think all the things that you just said because you're in that lane. I don't think any of that is true across the board. Like, I don't think humans are more healthy than they've ever been, or eating healthier than they've ever been. I think within your lane, you're seeing that.
Yeah.
We live in a city where that's probably true.
We're in a bubble. We're for sure in a bubble. Right. I guess
like more people are dying of heart disease. More people are dying,
it's a great point.
Comorbidities. More people are obese than ever before. We're poorer and somehow obese at the same time. Like,
yeah, but is the fact that a 40-something-year-old man recognizes the content that's showing him how to actually be healthy. Like a generation ago, that wouldn't have been the case. Once you're in your 40s, like you're on the back slope.
What I'm saying is all of these things are true.
Right. Yeah. You're saying that it's already fractionalized, and those fractions are going to break up even further. And
even further. And to every single person, that lane that they see is going to be true for them.
That's gross.
So then
it's gross. Yeah. So then this is not good.
How do you recognize truth when you see it?
Fuck, dude. That's what we talked about last time.
I know. It's where we ended the podcast last time. So how do you spot truth?
What is truth is the question.
Okay. What is truth?
I don't know.
Tell me something that's true.
Well,
here's what happens when you ask people this question.
Yeah.
Don't lose your if you had an answer there. When you ask people, is something true or is there such thing as truth? You get this sort of wishy-washy response of like, well, what's your truth?
So
there have to be things that are bedrock true.
Okay. Well, yeah, of course. But here's the basics of truth. The basics of truth is a contract between two people at the minimum that they agree on something. Like at its simplest form, if I say that the coffee lid here is black and you say it's red, then what's true? If I say it's black and you say it's black, it's true.
I don't think it requires two people all the time.
I think it has to.
Otherwise, fundamentally, there's some things that are true because that's the natural order of things.
But if you don't believe
the sun is going to come up on that horizon tomorrow morning.
But if I believe that and every other person on earth doesn't believe that, then what is true? Like the truth has to have a contract. There has to be some sort of consensus. And if it keeps getting more and more fractured to where people cannot agree on a consensus, then truth, this is what we're living in right now. This is the post-truth era.
See, I think of truth on like a more fundamental level and from a personal level, more like a firsthand experience where it's like, okay, making decisions from a place of fear is not the right way to make decisions. That's a fundamental truth.
Go even more fundamental though.
Yeah, I would say that's a personal truth. And I think you could get plenty of people to agree with you to say that that's true. But I don't think that that's even as true as this is.
But it's also if you want to, man, fuck. What do I believe?
I think you have to start with you have to start with a bedrock principle that there are certain things that are objectively true, whether you think they are or not. And it's okay for you to yell at the horizon and say that sun is not coming up on the horizon because that's not the truth as I see it.
Yep.
But at the end of the day, the sun's coming up, bro. Like you got to face the fact.
You and I agree with this.
Sun's. Well, I'm saying that there has to be there have to be bedrock things that are fundamentally true and not true, and whether or not you believe them. I'm sorry, it doesn't matter.
I agree with you, but we're dealing with this today. How many of these conversations do you hear about man and woman? There's no man, there's no woman. It's, sometimes we get it wrong. Okay. So we can agree that
you're arguing something that's so fundamental as man and woman, but those make it shaky truth, or does it just make you an idiot for arguing that there's not such a thing?
So now you agree on one thing and they agree on the other thing. And you are now agreeing that that person is wrong. But they don't agree. So what the fuck?
I think that is where a lot of our issues as a culture stem from.
This is what I'm talking about.
Our ability to agree that there are some bedrock principles here that are objectively true, whether you like it or not. And look, like I went too far by saying you're an idiot if you don't believe them, because your ability to get those people to acknowledge that, okay, yes, this is true.
Yeah.
It starts with not making them feel like an asshole for being wrong.
Sure.
And that, at a very core level, that's what we lack as a culture, is this default mode of like, you are definitely wrong. Therefore, you get no grace from me and you're a wrong person.
Yeah.
Like I'm going to put you in that bucket and you're going to live there forever because you are wrong about this thing.
Yeah.
There have to still be bedrock principles. There have to still be bedrock truths that whether you think it's true or not, it really doesn't matter. And the man and woman argument's a perfect one because, okay, you could look at the percentage of people that are born with ambiguous gender.
Yeah, we don't have to get into the details
as a
of
medical
it. We're saying
anomaly.
The same thing. Yeah.
But there's still in every other part of the
natural world. Sure.
The natural world, there are male versions and there are female versions and they reproduce a new critter. And regardless of how good the robot gets or AI gets or whatever plant like chip I can plant in you that gives you superhuman capabilities.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're not going to be able to, at least so far, we haven't been able to alter a human's physiology in a way that the next human that they create has that alteration built in. You'd then have to still go manipulate.
I think you're treating this too logically.
Okay.
Which is the problem with what I'm saying in this post-truth situation that we're in. Is logic goes out the window because it's beliefs. I believe this to be true, and no one can tell me otherwise.
Nature can,
but no one can to someone who's completely bought in. And I'm not talking about like virtue signaling to where it's like this is a popular thing. I'm going to agree with this to go along with the crowd. I'm talking about the people that believe these things to be true.
Use a less
there are people that
controversial topic.
There are people that have gone to do things that prove that the earth is not flat and walk away and go, yeah, I don't believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they'll go watch the sun rise and set and be at a different altitude and see the curvature of the earth and do all these things and then walk away from it like, no, it's still not real.
Sure.
And they're not posturing.
Okay. So what do you do with somebody where you see something that is so obviously true that they're wrong about?
I think that you have to have some level of humility to be like, well, maybe what I believe to be true isn't 100% for sure, unequivocally true.
The sun's coming up on that horizon tomorrow. I think the moment you lose the ability to say it's objectively true that the sun will rise on that horizon and it will set on that horizon, the moment you start to question whether or not, am I seeing this wrong?
Well, you could say this glowing ball in up there is going to appear to go like this. That's what you could say. Otherwise you're relying on a bunch of secondhand information.
Okay. But it's firsthand information. If I can walk out on my front porch
and say that
watch
ball,
the sun come up,
say that glowing ball.
Yeah, but how do you know you're
there,
not in the Truman Show? How do you know that that's not just a big light that's moving across the sky?
Because in my 40 years of living, the sun has always come up on that horizon.
Yeah, well, that guy's never missed a day of work. He just keeps moving it across the sky.
Could be.
I'm just saying, it's like you don't. We're talking about firsthand information, secondhand information.
Yeah, I don't see that.
This is okay. I'm glad. This is obviously silly, but like what we've just landed on is like the truth is a contract, and if these people do not agree on something, then it becomes very, very difficult.
You're also relying on information from somebody else to believe pretty much everything you believe about science and the world.
And which
is why I feel like it goes down to these fundamental truths of like good morals and values.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like morals and values are the only like undisputed truths.
No, I think that's a harder thing to argue. I really do. I think it's a harder thing to argue.
I don't think so.
Because here's the argument that somebody would make.
If you want to live a good life, is the caveat.
In medieval times, challenging somebody to a duel because he disrespected your wife, and now we're going to meet at dawn, and one of us is coming away alive. That was a noble thing. You're defending your wife's honor.
That's like a cultural thing.
Right. But I'm saying that those things can evolve. Somebody would argue that it's immoral to kill somebody just because they disrespected your wife in today's times. Even in medieval times, they would have agreed, sun's coming up over there and it's going down over there. I think that if we get to this point where we see
what's the
objective, observable truths,
what's the sun
as a thing to be argued over?
I'm an alien. What's the sun?
I think we're here, dude. I think you're saying if we get there, I think we're here. This is my whole point.
I think that if we are resigned to that as a culture, we're in trouble.
This is the trouble we're in.
Yeah. But I don't see it as this is what makes me optimistic. This is the thing that makes me optimistic, is that at the end of the day, there is a decision that I could make that's a good decision about a thing. And there's a decision that I can make that's a bad decision about a thing. And we have to be able to say objectively, for all the information that I've got, this is better than this.
Yes. And I think that the foundation for that decision making is good morals and values. If you're trying to make good decisions, you need good morals and values. And that's the only fundamental truth. It doesn't fucking matter about the sunrise.
I think the fundamental truth is more bedrock than that even. It's that there are things that are good and there are things that are bad.
That's what I'm saying.
There's a difference.
That's what I'm saying. Fundamental morals and values are based on things that are fundamentally good and fundamentally bad.
But they have to be objective over time. And that's where, when you're talking about morals and values, you're going to lose some people in that argument. They're going to say, but what's good for us today?
But you don't even have to put time into the equation, because this happens today.
Do unto others.
Cultures in different parts of the world that believe that you should kill that person if they do this thing that we would never do.
Yeah.
So now we're objective, good and bad. Like, okay.
I think objective, true and false is where it has to start. There has to be an agreement amongst the vast majority of people, 99% of the population that aren't on the fringes of losing their grip on reality. Mm-hmm. You have to have the people in the middle that would agree there are things that happen and don't happen. That the natural order of things, as far as we can tell on this planet, which is where humans have lived forever, there are things that happen that are objectively true, that are repeatable, that happen every day. It has to start with, is there such thing as truth?
I agree with you 100%. And this is where I've discovered over the last 10 years of kookiness that's been going on. It's really, really difficult to have any type of meaningful conversation with somebody who doesn't believe in gravity. Like, how would you explain, or how would you have a conversation about space travel if someone doesn't believe the Earth is round? Like, that's a metaphor for what I'm talking about. If somebody,
those are all like unimportant things to even talk about, though. If you're talking about what should I do in order to do good things and not bad things, it's only morals and value. All of that shit is just like cultural distractions.
Well, I can't remember what we kicked this off in the first place, but it was something about, like, very tangibly about like what's true and what. Oh, it was AI. We were talking about something that's
how can you spot what's real and what's not real
versus fake by humans? Yeah. And so that's why we're on this tangent. Like,
and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying, so things that are created from a foundation of good morals and values then those things are infused with truth. And when you put those things out into the world, I think that they stand out like a sore thumb. And I think it's a little murky now, but I think eventually those are the only things that people are going to really want to gravitate to. And the alternative is to have not so great morals and values, like some of the podcasters that you were referencing earlier. Then the stuff that they put out there is going to be tainted with their morals. And so I think if you believe that the right thing to do is to put good things out into the world that can potentially be helpful to other humans, the only thing that matters is fundamental morals and values. It's like the sunrise doesn't fucking matter. Who cares? Somebody thinks you're in a dome. Somebody thinks it's a ball of gas. Somebody, like, who cares? It's a VR machine. Like, who cares? Doesn't fucking matter. Somebody wants to be a they, them. Who cares? Fucking who cares? Good luck. Your own morals and values are the only thing that matter. And that's the only, like, fundamental truth.
I completely agree. And I completely agree with what you're saying about, like, we have to agree on some of these things that are objectively true. I think where these two things come together as an issue is where a lot of the discord is coming from today. So for the most part, if you say, like, if you're they, them, who cares? Do your thing. Agree. Be gay, be straight, be a woman, be they. Doesn't matter. Where the discourse starts to occur is if you think this way and you think that should be taught to him and his kids, and you need to believe in this thing.
I teach my own kids. Like, what do you mean?
Well, that's where a lot of the problems are coming from today. Is not me. I don't want you forcing your ideas onto me.
But those problems, it's like, you don't have to participate in other people's problems. It's like, how is it a problem to you if you're living in alignment with the good fundamental morals and values?
Yeah, but what if those morals and fundamental morals and values are being taught in a different way than you agree with.
Taught by who?
Through society, schools,
it's
laws,
just
government.
there's just a heavier obligation.
What if my morals and values are not shared by the person who's building the system that's going to teach my kids what's moral? And
this is where
you're going to teach your kids.
Yeah, but we all know there's only so much you can do to teach your kids versus like nature versus nurture. And if you're gonna have those ideas come in that you don't agree with, like most people are gonna have a problem with that.
But why even, like, all you can do is teach your kids the best you can what good morals and values are. You can lead by example, which I believe all of us do. And fucking then they're going to go out in the world and bump into different things and hear weird fucking belief. It doesn't fucking matter. It's like you give them the foundation and then they're going to be protected by that foundation. And then they I spend zero time being concerned if like you can teach your kids to not get indoctrinated into dumb shit.
Can you?
I mean, you
can teach them what to look out for, but
do you believe?
But also, if they do, then that's their fucking, that's their journey. And then then if you instill really good fundamental morals and values, eventually they're going to realize, oh, this is bullshit.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. But let's make it a bit more practical. Forget the raising your kids. There's a certain group of people in this state that believe a certain type of flour should be illegal.
Totally.
You shouldn't have access to it.
Totally.
You disagree with that.
I disagree.
Right. Fundamentally, some of those people are full of shit. Most of them probably. But fundamentally, a lot of those people do think in their hearts that it's an evil plant that's 100%. Going to corrupt these people.
I think they're wrong.
My point.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we've got what's good, what's bad.
Okay.
What's true, what's not.
But the only reason that I am saying anything publicly on that particular issue is because, and even spending any time thinking about it, is not because I'm trying to save my business, is not because I'm worried about...
Because you believe it to be real.
It's because, first and foremost, I believe that cannabis is a sacred plant that was put here for us to use to actually heal the shit that is holding us back among a family of plants that do the same. I've spent the last 5 years building a cannabis business in Texas, and I have a ton of firsthand knowledge and experience with the plant and in the industry. And I think these people are morally corrupt, and I am speaking out against it, not to save my company, but because there are millions of people across Texas who will lose access to a fucking natural medicine.
So here's where they would argue.
And so I am not spending, I am spending the smallest amount of time necessary. I feel obligated to convey my knowledge about the topic in hopes of potentially swaying the outcome. But I don't give a fuck personally. Like, it's not, we will bob and weave. It doesn't matter. So that is the only reason I'm doing it, is because I'm in a unique position to get millions of views on videos that I'm pumping out online. That's the only reason I'm doing it. Any other issue, it's like, why fucking, if you're not going to do anything about it, if you have no control over it, why is it even a thought in your head?
The argument they would make against that, though, because there is an argument to be made against it based on somebody else's life experience that they see as objective truth, where you've got, like, I've got a friend who has a brother that died from an overdose. And when he was youngish, I mean, he would have been legal age to buy cannabis products. He was introduced to cannabis. And that was a starting point for him that then progressed to more and more illicit substances that ultimately ended in him having an overdose. And so for that person, for my friend, his brother, his objective truth would be, if he didn't have access to that cannabis plant, Now we can get into the.
If he didn't have access to the cannabis plant, he would have found the next closest thing
Totally
to it. It's
be.
like that's not
Totally could
the
be.
plant
but
is not
his
the issue.
My point
right?
there is that his objective truth, based on his life experience and what he's gone through, is seeing his brother start with cannabis and progress to whatever it was that ultimately killed him. And he sees the gateway drug element of it. That,
Sure.
Okay, there is a reefer madness tactic built in there for sure. And you know how I feel about the plants.
Totally.
I'm trying to steel man that other side. That person also has a life experience that is different in a way that they would argue just as adamantly that they're right, because
that's my whole point.
It started with this thing and it ended in this.
But it's like, fine. What does that have to do with me? Why do I have to even think about
No, because the whole start of that conversation was just do objectively right and moral things. And the purpose of this was like, well, to him, right and moral might be different than your right and moral.
Yeah, well, the whole reason that this discussion can even be a discussion in the first place is if we can agree that there are some things in the middle that need to be argued over and negotiated and gone back and forth, because whatever we decide is the right way to pursue.
What would be an example of something that other than cannabis? What would be? I think people spend too much time worrying about those types of topics when they have absolutely zero ability to affect anything related to it. And that's always been my gripe with politics. It's like, why do you care? What do you like? You're not going to do anything about it. You have literally zero ability to affect the situation. And again, the only reason why I'm participating in this very specific legislative issue is because I have specialized knowledge on it and I feel obligated to do it.
Yeah.
And so once it's done, I'm fucking, and it's not even like I'm doing the bare minimum to provide what I believe to be the morally right thing to do.
I don't think that that's the discussion. Like, I think we all understand that part.
But then why? Well, then, but why? What?
Like, it just goes back to the basics of like, forget all the topics. It's just the difference between like truth, and your thesis was, as long as you just concentrate on what's morally good and right,
yes,
nothing else matters.
Yes.
And the whole idea is, yeah, but what you think is morally good and right might be different from somebody else.
Well, what I believe is I've spent 40 years on Earth trying to figure out what I believe and what morals and values I think are fundamentally true. And I have now concluded, I've come to some pretty profound conclusions about what I believe to be true and what I believe are the correct motivations to act from.
Yeah.
And I literally am it's the thing I think about the most every single day. And so I'm trying to make every single decision in my life from rooted in these, what I believe are fundamental morals and values. I think you could look at any religion in the world and strip away all the stories and characters and find this same bundle of morals and values. And can I say with 100% certainty that I'm correct? No. But do I believe it? That's what faith is. I have faith that the moral and value structure that I have constructed, that I have been operating on, I mean, really like
here, let me see if I could put a point on it to make your point. Okay. So if you've come to the conclusion that as long as it's moral and you said it's morals
and values.
Morals and values. Okay. So as long as you're making decisions from a place of morals and values that you believe in, then you know that that's objectively true. If you can believe that that is the correct path for everyone, make decisions based on morals and values that you believe in. Then, to put the cap on everything, if your morals and values are different, but you believe them to be true, then that's the best path.
No, that's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is I literally think there is one static set of morals and values that are fundamentally true. And I think every religion ever has attempted to articulate those that single set of morals and values with different stories and characters. And they're all systems designed to help humans align their lives with what's fundamentally good. And I think that then there's a lot of humans who have twisted those and turned it into like, it's morally wrong if we don't duel. Like, that's not a fucking fundamental, that's like a weird cultural abstraction of and misinterpretation of good morals and values.
The only reason to have these discussions in the first place is to put your ideas of what's moral and virtuous out in the world, where other people might get answers to the things that they're grappling with from the work that you've already put into it, right? So the only purpose of putting this out there in the first place is so that you can, well, A, get better at articulating your own morals and values, because having to say it out loud in a way that you know is going to be on record and then go back and listen to it later, there's an exposing element to that. But the whole purpose of doing it is so that somebody that might be kind of on the fence, you can sway them to seeing the world through the lens that you look at it in. The challenge that you have in building objective truth around what you see to be morals and values that apply across time is that if you can't agree that there is objective truth in the first place, or that such a thing exists, you're going to lose somebody when you start talking about morals and values because they see dogma in that. Like, you've built your life experiences in such a way, you've had life experiences in such a way that's led you to this set of morals and values, but I don't have those life experiences. So we're not going to agree on what
I mean, that would be coming from a worldview where everybody makes up their own morals and values, and that there isn't a, I believe in God, and I believe that God is fundamentally like, God is the fundamental morals and values. Like, aligning your life with the fundamental morals and values is the only way to align yourself with that, whatever that fucking infinite creative force is.
I don't think you're wrong.
And so but I think that there's only one God. I don't think that it belongs to any religion. I think there's one God. And I think that there is a moral code that humans need to adhere to in order to live in alignment with that one God.
So I think that the moment you start with the G word, you're going to lose a big percentage of people.
Totally.
Gotcha.
Which to a certain extent, like,
it's kind of just like, I don't know, like what the fucking great mystery, the universe, I'm not here to convince atheists that there's a God.
Right.
It's like,
We'll save that for the next
figure
episode.
it out. I mean,
then we'll figure that one out.
see where that gets you in the long run.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I think that, I run an experiment on my own life every single day. And, I feel like I've kind of been on this journey of figuring out what my higher power beliefs are.
Mm-hmm.
Do I believe in a higher power at all? And what do I believe are the true fundamental morals and values? And I feel like I've continuously seen I've seen things unfold in such a way that makes me very, very deeply believe that there is a right way to live and a wrong way to live.
In our last conversation, you talked about realizing the light and being able to spread the light once you've realized where to find it. Like, that was your words were being able to spread God's light to other people was a thing to aspire to, but you can't actually do that unless you've really reconciled where it comes from in the first place.
Well, it's like, I think that we're antennas. We're all antennas for the infinite creative force that created everything.
So,
and I think that we're all different levels of clean versus mucked up antennas.
Mm-hmm.
And some people have a whole lot of mud on their antenna and they're just kind of like a shoddy little circuit. And then like a fucking newborn baby is just pure fucking vessel for the spirit. And that's why you look at them and you're just like, oh my God.
Yeah. But then you still have to contend with nature, because they're not just a totally blank slate that's born with nothing. And all of us, like,
they're not. That's true.
We're not going to solve this. And we're already past the 3:00 time that you had as an
I think
hard out.
My out is dead.
Okay, so we
can
gotta
keep going.
we probably should wrap it up before too long. But the thing I would say there is, if your goal is to spread what you see to be truth, it has to start from a much more fundamental place than morals and values. I think it has to start from a place of, is there even such a thing? Can we even agree that there is such a thing as things that are true and not true? Because if you can't, if you're talking to somebody who is standing on shaky ground on the concept of truth fundamentally, then no matter what ecosystem you've lived in and life structure you've built around your morals and values, you're not going to, it's not worth
I just see it differently as like the most fundamental thing is morals and values, and everything else is downstream from the set of morals and values.
You think at the most fundamental level, it's universal across the board?
I think it's universal across the board. And I think everybody who is living a peaceful life in alignment with the creative force is adhering to the same set of morals and values, no matter what religion, no matter what culture. And I think that there is an endless misinterpretation and bad abstractions of these morals and values and used to twist to justify different fucking things that actually are not in alignment with those morals and values. And that's all the bad shit you see. Mm-hmm. The only thing that matters is you finding those morals and values for yourself, understanding them and figuring out how to apply them to literally everything that you fucking do. And then nothing that anybody else is doing actually matters. And so nothing matters in terms of like, you don't have to let it affect you. And you can then be, you can then help, you can figure out ways to make things with your connection that then inspire other people to hopefully find that same set of morals and values.
So how would you instill that in your kids then? If your kids get the freedom to craft their own morals and values?
No, they don't, because there's one set of morals and values, but they also have to discover it for themselves. Mm-hmm. So all you can do, you're shepherding them. So what do you do with the reality that they're going to run into, that they're going to find people in their lives that have a totally different set of morals and values that they also believe are true? I would say if they are not the morals and values that lead to a good life, then they're not true.
Also subjective.
A good life?
Yes.
Sure. But I mean, I guess this is kind of like an abstract, like what would be a specific example?
And what I'm arguing is that it has to start from a place that's not abstract, that it has to start from a place of fundamental objectivity. And
no, but I'm saying you're kind of you're providing an ambiguous example of what. So if I'm saying that like, you should be truthful, you should, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Mm-hmm. Like, these things, like, where are my kids going to run into somebody that has a different opposing set of values that would potentially sway them to, it's like, if you teach them the good ones that lead to good outcomes, then they're going to be like, oh, these are the good ones. And if they run into somebody who is doing something that is leading to a bad, like, I just don't think that you can, I don't think there is another way to live. I think there's only one way to live a good, happy, peaceful life. There's one set of values to operate against to live a good, happy, peaceful life. And if there's so anybody who is living a good, happy, peaceful life is adhering to those fundamental values.
The good, happy, peaceful piece of it is where it's subjective. Because to that person, good, happy, peaceful can look totally different than how good, happy, peaceful looks to you.
I would have to, I don't know though. I mean, we all experience the same set of emotions. So like, you're either peaceful or you're not. So like what?
I mean, the piece of this that I think I would argue as what should be the starting point if you're going to have discussions like this. If you're going to have discussions like this with people that you don't know agree with you, or you go into it knowing they don't agree with you. Because you kind of came into this
probably wouldn't talk about
we agree
this with, I mean, but like what?
No, I think it should be talked about.
But with somebody that you like.
Yeah, I think it's important.
You think you should go.
It's probably the most important thing about this kind of a format is that you have conversations with people that you disagree with. Like Paul and I talked about this because in the first 15 episodes that we did, the feedback I got from Paul was, yeah, I mean, but you have a lot of people in here that see the world the way that you do. And fair point. Like part of the beauty of this format is seeing people interact with each other in a way that, you know, they don't agree on everything and you can see how they work through it. There's value in that to me anyways, like seeing people that disagree on something and recognizing, oh, he said something there that was kind of a low blow and it really set the conversation and took it off the rails. Like you have to be able to have conversations with people you disagree with. So then where you'd have to, if that's a valuable thing to do, like if I'm going to have people in here that I know on the concept of faith, on the concept of politics, on the concept of the importance of the family unit, like all these things that I think are fundamentally true. Well, I want to talk with them on the record about why I feel the way that I do. If that's going to be a productive conversation, it has to start from some bedrock principles that we can agree on. And starting with morals and values is upstream of that. Downstream of that.
The sunrise is more fundamental than morals and values.
The fact that there are things that are objectively true that you can't, you just.
What's like an example? What's an example?
I think the sunrise is an example.
But you're going to, what kind of productive conversation you have about the sunrise?
I think it's productive in that you can find something that you can agree is objectively true so that you know you're at least dealing in good faith. Because sometimes you'll interact with somebody and you'll find out that they really don't believe that anything is objectively true. And then it's just not even worth the time. That's casting pearls before swine.
But like,
if you're going to have a conversation about something you know you disagree on.
It's like if you're going to, like what I was trying to say earlier about if you don't agree on gravity, how are you going to talk about like rockets? Right. Okay.
I would never talk about rockets though, right? So it's like, and why would either of y'all talk about rockets?
Hold
on. What's an example of something?
Hold on.
One of the three of us would talk about.
He was getting at it.
Let's say we sit down to play chess.
Okay.
You agree to play chess.
Okay.
I agree to play chess.
Cool.
You make a move and I go, yeah, you can't do that.
Uh-huh.
And you're like, yeah, you can. It's in
the rules.
Yeah, it's in the rules.
Okay. Yeah, but so in order to play chess, we have to agree on the same set of rules.
Well, we thought we did. We sat down to play. Okay. But now, if in the middle of the game you change the rules and I say those aren't the rules, and you go, I don't care. I'm doing my own thing.
This is all abstract. What are you talking about?
Have you ever had a conversation with somebody that you couldn't get past something that you believed was objectively true and they didn't?
Not in recent history, no.
Yeah, it happens to me a lot.
Happens to me a lot too.
Yeah, where you start a conversation.
Why are you
with
talking
somebody,
to these people?
Because they're amongst us.
Well, because they're amongst us, and because blind spots are a real thing.
Yeah,
but that to me, like if there's some things that I thought 10 years ago that myself of today would look back and go, I don't know that was right. And for me, to be blind to those things in perpetuity scares the heck out of me.
Well, you just have a cordial conversation, right? Like I'm being completely unfiltered with the two of y'all because you know me and because I'm treating this like a fucking campfire. If I was talking to somebody and we had like different world views, I would be more delicate in my conversation with them. I mean, I talk to fucking people all the time.
Yeah,
but I don't like debate the sunrise. I just fucking talk to them. And if it's somebody that I can't talk about things on a deep level with, I don't fucking talk about it. It's on the surface.
This is where I think the point of doing this sort of an exercise, and then we're going to wrap.
No, I'm good. I'm liking this. I feel like I tossed a grenade into a room.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I think that having conversations that you're willing to put out there, they're easier when they're with people that you know you agree with. I think that having conversations with people where
I don't agree with y'all.
I know we have some bedrock principles we agree on, but there's a lot of things I know we don't agree on. So let's wade into those and see if we can make it productive. That to me is the benefit of the podcast medium, is having conversations with people that I know there's some stuff that we don't agree on. And the whole process of me building rapport with you and agreeing on some core principles that we can then build upon in a conversation to then wade into this piece that we disagree on.
I mean, I think we did that on this podcast.
Well, we agree on a lot. It's easy.
We did, but it's progressively got deeper and deeper until, but I guess I don't understand like the conundrum. What are we concerned about here?
Well, it started with the AI's progression towards making things that you can't even tell are not real anymore. That's where this whole thing started.
And then it went
the
to
photo. This photo looks so good after just spending 5 minutes on it that I can't tell the difference. And I do this somewhat professionally. So then it's okay. Is AI going to be able to make things that totally alter the reality?
Then
of truth?
It went into the observation that he had that I think is really interesting, which is, will that then make us sharper at identifying what's authentic and good from humans, and separating what humans are inauthentic, and make us much more attuned to that.
And to clarify, what I believe is that.
Hold on. Don't finish your thought.
Yep.
Don't lose yours, but finish yours.
I had never thought of that way, and I agree with that. I think that that's an interesting byproduct that could come from our use of AI, getting very familiar with it, seeing the things that AI can make that's indistinguishable from reality, and then somehow attuning our senses more towards bullshit for humans, which is actually, I think, a good thing. Then it was like, well, what's real and what's not, and what's right and what's wrong.
Well, the reason
the question, how do you spot truth when you see it?
Yeah.
And so that's where we got into morals and values, because I believe that all truth is derived from this permanent set of morals and values. And I think all good art, all good creation is pulling that truth through you and pushing it through your unique lens and creating a thing where other people can look at it and be like, yeah, that's fucking real.
Okay, I think I might have another attempt at putting a cap on it. I think. Okay.
You get the floor to wrap us up here then.
Okay, sweet. So I tried to say morals and values, fundamental. If someone completely agrees that they are the correct morals and values, then it's actually, they're both right. But you said no, there's one fundamental. Okay, I'm with that. Maybe the easiest way to take it from like a little abstract and a little ambiguous on like morals and values are the right set of morals and values. Like, what if it's just one? Like, what if it's literally just the golden rule?
Dude, I mean, it could easily.
Like, what if it's like,
that
what else is
simplifies
there?
it for sure.
Like, if you just say like, if the one truth,
unless you're a masochist,
what if the one truth that's objective across the board, regardless of your views on this, your views on that, the sun rises, sun falls, whatever. If everyone just says, do unto others as you would have them do to you, and that's the one thing everyone agrees on, I think we're good.
Except for there's some sickos that like,
Yeah, but that's arguing.
That's what I'm saying.
That's arguing that male and female is not a thing because some people are born a little bit.
No.
I'm saying no, for sure. It's the golden rule for a reason, right?
That's it.
It sums up kind of all the morals.
I think that's kind of it.
I think in order to have any productive conversation, you have to be aligned with the other person on what you believe is fundamentally good.
That's the space argument.
Otherwise, you're just talking at each other.
Yeah.
And it's like what,
I would rephrase what you just said. I would say you have to agree with the other person that there is something that's fundamentally good. Not what the fundamental good is. It's that the reality of good and not good exists. Because the moment you slide into, well, it might be good for you, but somebody 1,000 years ago and somebody 1,000 years in the future might not see it that way, you've lost me. Because there's still some things that have to be.
Yeah, I just think that's an abstraction versus the fundamental.
No, I think that is the fundamental. Whether or not you agree that something is good or something is bad, whether or not something can be classified as good or bad.
But I don't think you can go deeper than do unto others. I don't think there's anything deeper than that. Because that solves almost everything. The
golden rule.
Yeah, right? But that solves everything. Because you could say, oh, well, in some cultures, it's okay to kill people if they're gay. It's like, okay, well, would you kill someone if you wanted them to kill you? Like, that's solved. I think that transcends every law, every religion, I think it's the sun. I think it's a light in the sky. It's just literally like, don't treat somebody the way you don't want to be treated.
Sure. There's a faction of people that would say if I was gay, well, then I deserve it.
Nobody wants to be treated badly.
If they were gay, they would not be like, "Yep, kill me." I don't think that. I think that's. I think there is. we're going in circles now.
We'll
Time
stop
to wrap
this
up.
like 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
All this
Yeah,
things
where
can
I
be
capped
cut
it.
out.
It was like 200 others.
This is why you need
We're
to
not
be the
making
one editing.
anything that can be clipped. Now we're past the point of good clips. Guys, I hope this isn't the last time. The next time we do it, maybe we'll do it out at the ranch and try to set up a makeshift studio out there. Give us a little bit more unblocked time.
Yeah.
But thanks for coming out here and doing it.
Thanks, buddy.
Really do
That was
appreciate
awesome,
it.
dude.
And I thank you for the nudge on doing my own shit, because I know deep down, I know that's where it has to go in order for this to be viable. It's the thing of like not standing in my own way by putting all of myself into something and then having it not go well.
You can't half-ass it, dude. You got to full-ass it.
Yeah, full ass it. Yeah. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Fucking awesome.